community development, politics, or the economy. Bring it on and listen to What's the Issue on Spice FM every Thursday at 10 hours.
All right, welcome to yet another edition of What's the Issue. This one in particular is a special one. It's a Wednesday edition of What's the Issue. It is a special edition because we are supposed to be hosting the Central Province Permanent Secretary, Mr. Milna Kabwe, who we should still be waiting for in case he'll come late, but definitely he'll find us already along the way. All right, on the program as well, we have Dr.Oliver from Renigia Consultancy. Dr. Bulaya is a management consultant at Renigia Consultancy, the immediate past Deputy Regional Manager for Conservation Farming Unit, a climate-smart agricultural expert, and Dr. Bulaya is also an expert and researcher in conservation agriculture. Doctor, good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. As usual, this is a wonderful time. I'm thinking it's a farmer's program now. This is a different program.
Yeah, sure. But okay, we are now looking at another level.
Yes.
Yeah, we have actually scaled it up to a topic called agriculture. Zambia's sleeping giant.
Yes.
Can Central Province unlock its agriculture potential? And then we are also aware and mindful that the agriculture show should be on its way, or is it underway?
Yes, yes. Yeah, I think the agricultural, show has started today. I think today is 27th, and it will go on up to, first of August.
Okay.
This is very important, and the theme, of this agriculture show this year is on innovation through technology.
Innovation through technology.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting, huh? How does that speak to the whole agricultural scenario?
Yes,
especially in Central Province.
In Central Province, yes, this is very important because we are talking about agriculture, and when you're talking about agriculture, there are innovations that are coming through, and these innovations, farmers have to embrace them. When we are talking about agriculture, we always say that it's not only about crops. It's a diverse, kinds of engagement into tapping into the potentials that are there in agriculture. It could be livestock, it could be, fish farming, it could be any other, kind of, farming or agricultural, activity. So yes, all these have different, types of, technologies, that are available, and I believe that the agricultural show theme emphasizes in ensuring that there are innovations, through, technology to improve, productivity.
Last week, I think it was on the other platform on Farmers Breakfast.
Oh yes,
we actually went as far as trying to break down the theme of the just ended AU Midterm Summit under the theme Building Resilience in Nutrition and Food Security, Strengthening Agriculture. So as a country and province, what is this theme telling us, and how are we going to plug in it? What would you think would be the best way to approach the AU's theme vis-a-vis the provincial, or rather the theme that the agriculture show has carried?
Yes, I think.
How do they intermingle?
Yes, these are talking about increased productivity, because when you're talking about technologies are there to enhance in terms of productivity. In fact, there are technologies that are even in seeds that are being produced by seed companies. Technologies that ensure seeds are tolerant to climate change and so on and so forth. So now, coming to the AU summit also is enhancing the same kind of farming endeavors by our farmers to say when we are producing, we shouldn't only produce for Zambia or for consumption
or for the mouth,
in that local environment or family environment, but we need to go a step further and ensure that we produce more to feed other countries as well for exports so that Africa is food secure, especially in terms of nutritional value chains. But I believe this has also come with so many other implications, because for farmers to produce more they need to have markets. You understand? They need to have markets. So meaning that the government has to do more, working in partnership, with the private sector in creating markets, for our farmers. When there is market and there is also lower, production cost, farmers can do more than what they are doing now.
All right. So then looking at it in that view, we should now think that agriculture should be highly industrialized, no matter at what scale.
Yes, mechanization is a very important, component, of scaling up in terms of productivity. Mechanization entails that instead of using, labor, using people, using our own effort, we can in place, use, machines. We have machines in terms of even spraying. This time around we have sprayers. That we can use. To do all those activities. We have in terms of land preparation. We have tools. That farmers can use in terms of scaling up, in terms of production. When farmers are doing the land preparation, there are tools that they use. For planting, there are tools that they can use. Planters. These are latest. Technologies. For spraying, there are boom sprayers and other technologies that are available, this time around. So when we want, to increase, productivity, one thing that we need to do is to ensure that our smallholder farmers are mechanized. And this is one component most of the smallholders are lacking, behind. They don't understand to say mechanization is also part of, smallholder farmers. They need to embrace it. It's not only for larger, scale farmers. There are certain implements that can be used at a level, of smallholder farmers.
Now, with all those aspects, innovation, technology, mechanization, what you call again, the other aspect of tilling.
Yes, reaping and all that.
All those are the reforms in agriculture. We should place agriculture at a certain level. Now, with all that in mind, what is the general outlook for agriculture? What is the role agriculture is supposed to play on the economy?
Yes, it has a major role. It has a major role. But, this is the essence, I think, of the major theme that we'll talk about at a later stage when the permanent secretary, comes in. There's been so many pronouncements, of underpinning agriculture as one of the sector, to develop, our country. You understand? It is not only, developing our country, even our rural setups. The economies can develop in the rural setups when our farmers engage into farming as business, tapping into this latest, technologies. But, the challenge that we've had is that when we are underpinning, agriculture to be one of the, a sector to enhance, agricultural productivity. Less has been done, to promote, the intentions. You understand? Yeah. There's been much more of pronouncements, but much less, of implementation aspect, ensuring that modalities are put in place, and ensuring that policies align to the pronouncements that the government is making, the Minister of Agriculture is making, the President is making. Because if pronouncements are just done verbally, just like that, without action-oriented, without putting short-term measures or long-term measures in order to realize the bigger picture of what we would want agriculture to be, all these pronouncements are in vain. You understand? We become professors of tocatology, if there's anything like that, where we talk too much and less of, implementation. So if you look at the 2030 vision, it underpins, agriculture. There are four sectors that we always talk about, the manufacturing, the mining, the tourism, sector, and agriculture as one of the areas, to drive, the economic, advancements of our country. We have the favorable, climate, we have land, we have all the resources that we can talk about, that God has embedded in this country, as Zambia. But all we need to do now is to ensure that we implement, strategies that will be able to ensure that we meet the set, objectives.
All right. Now, drawing on the topic today, Zambia, agriculture, a sleeping giant, or agriculture, Zambia's sleeping giant. How do we look at that picture?
Thank you so much. Agriculture.
Do we still have that, the capacity or the potential?
Yes, agriculture, Zambia's, sleeping giant, Central Province unlock its agricultural potential. This is well, set. Maybe looking at the broader picture, Zambia, before we come back, to where we are. Yes, as Central, Province. One thing that I can mention is that Zambia covers 75, a million of hectares, and this is about 752,000 kilometer squares. And out of this, 58%, of which is 42 million hectares is classified as medium or high, potential agricultural production. You understand? 42 million of hectares. And out of this, only 15% is under cultivation. Look at the
15%?
15% is under cultivation. I'm talking about Zambia as a whole. We have about 752,000 kilometer, square, and which is about, 42 million hectares, where our smallholder farmers can tap into in terms of agricultural productivity as well as, larger scale, farmers. But only 15% is under cultivation this time around. And when you come back, to Central Province, Central Province contains about 20.64% total area cover, cultivated, in Zambia. And it contributes about 23.58 of total agricultural, production. This is what the Central Province is contributing, to agricultural sector in Zambia, about 23.58 percent, you understand. So, and when you look at the population, Central Province constitute about 10.05% of total Zambia population. Now, when we come back, because of the effects of climate change, you will see that a southern province, which was mostly hit, by climate change, production in terms of agriculture was very low, from 1990s, you understand. But when you look at, the 2020, 2021, market, reviews, you discover that southern and eastern province are growing up in terms of maize production. They are doing better, far much better in terms of agricultural productivity, in terms of maize production, which is a very good thing. But now when it comes to a Central Province, it has favorable climate compared to southern, eastern, and so on. But in terms of production, we've come down, you understand, in terms of maize production, for example, we've come down. So now when you look at the overall picture of Zambia, 96% of maize production is done by smallholder farmers. You understand? And only 4% is done by larger, scale farmers. So we have a bigger room, of improving, the agricultural sector in Zambia as well as, in the Central, Province. We are not there. We are not doing much in terms of having climatical, conditions that favor, agricultural production. But we are not there. You understand? We are not there. We are not there. And I always say the agricultural sector employs about 66%, of employees, here in Zambia. 66 are coming from the agricultural sector. But despite understanding the importance of the agricultural sector in Zambia, we are not there to tap into these potentials. We are too much of talking. We are too much of good ideas, good plans, but we are not doing it really to change, the landscapes, in terms of the farming agriculture in Zambia. And when we are talking about farming, we are talking about not only about crops. We are talking about the aquaculture, fish farming and so on. We are talking about floriculture, those who can get into, growing of flowers. We are talking about bee farming, horticulture for fruits, vegetables. You understand? We are talking about bee farming, mushroom farming, livestock, piggery and poultry.
Even botany.
Botany
is a very good industry as well. Very rich industry.
Yes.
You grow and export all these roses.
Yes.
It's a very, very, very lucrative
very
business.
lucrative, business. And I had a radio program, is it yesterday morning, with Love, FM,
Yeah.
Lusaka. I said to say, God is a farmer. And God is a farmer. He gave a responsibility to the first, agricultural expert, Adam. Is it Adam, to tend land, to take care of land, and so on. And when you look in Bible times, you look at Abraham. Abraham was a rich person, or he was wealth in terms of the agricultural aspect. These are men who were involved in agriculture. They had livestock. They had all these things that we can talk about. There were no planes that time. There were no doctors in terms of, medicine or these other fields that have come this time around. But we see agriculture as the mainstay, yes, in that, time. And it gave them, all those, resources. So even as Zambia, geographically, we are well positioned. And when you talk about, Central Province, we are well positioned, just as Zambia is, interlinked country and a hub that can produce more and supply, to the region, to all, Africa and even beyond Africa. When you talk of Central Province, it's well positioned. We have neighboring, provinces, that we can supply to, and we are well, positioned, even, to export, to Tanzania, to export, to DRC, and so on. All these things that we are talking about, Mr. Mbewe, we are not tapping into them. We have the universities here in the Central Province, so we don't have an excuse. We have agricultural experts in all these fields that we are talking about. This can help, our farmers to enhance, in terms of productivity. But I don't know where we are lagging behind as Zambia, even as, Central Province.
Right, so we can take a break now and allow our callers to join us on the program. I'm sure you're listening and you are very eagerly waiting to join us on the program by phoning in. You can call 0970-777911, 0956-777911, and 0969-777911. This is What's the Issue? All right, so you mentioned one very good aspect there, that when we have maximum productivity in agriculture, we've got a lot of market around us. And I know and remember that every other day the president always emphasizes on tapping into the trade that we have around with our neighbors. Notwithstanding maybe leaving out agriculture. Agriculture also should play a major role.
Yes.
Yeah, but we've seen pockets of people taking livestock here and there, a few vegetables here and there, which they're doing at a very, very low capacity. But we can scale up.
Yes.
So if looking at the way Central Province is placed, just here, and Congo is just next door, and we are right in the route, whether by rail or by road. So now, how do you think would Central Province tap into the market, maybe the DRC, Tanzania, and I don't know which other country we have here. I think even Malawi. Yeah, the way we are positioned.
Yes, it is not something that just can happen, just like that.
It's a change of mindset.
Yeah, it's a change of mindset, and it's a process. And how do we do this? It's a process, but Zambia, we are born as agriculturists. We are born as farmers. You understand? Our parents, the time I was born, my grandmother, we used to go in the field. So that is the way we are oriented. So agriculture is not new to us. Even as the AU pronounced pronouncements to say that we need to scale up in terms of nutritional food chains and so on. We've been doing it as Zambia. But where is the problem? I mentioned this to say the problem is in ensuring that we give the right information to our farmers. You understand? We train our farmers in terms of getting organized, because farmers that is organized. I had a program, where I talked about this at length, you understand, where I said, farmers are disorganized. They are disorganized in the sense that markets cannot be provided for individual farmers, but there must be an organized way of doing it. For example, if it's a poultry, farming and so on, there must be, organizations or markets that are available for poultry and that can tap into, farmer groups and so on. And these farmer groups can supply, all these, poultry, or it is, vegetables, or it is, other crops and so on, to these organized markets and so on. So, firstly, we need to go down to where farmers are and ensure that our farmers, prioritize growing crops or doing farming business, in line with the markets that are available. You understand? Markets that are available. For example, we are talking about farmers increasing, production, in terms of cowpea or soya. Where is the market, for these farmers? For example, in Mukushi. Where is the market for farmers in Chitambo? Where is the market for farmers in the remotest areas, in all these various districts? So it is very essential that the government can look at, providing, opening up, the potentials that are located in these distinct, places, and ensure that we have processing companies, in these areas that can create markets for farmers. Farmers cannot go and sell, crops or do any business directly to Congo. We are looking at the bulk. We are looking at the bulk, and we are looking at the sustainability of that kind of a business and so on. So I believe that when we start, in our local areas, in our districts, and open up these districts, open up these areas in terms of setting up, processing companies in relating to the potentials that are within, those districts, it will enhance productivity. It will enhance, market linkages and promote, productivity, because farmers will do more because they have a market. You understand? They have a market. And again, we need to look at, training. It's both the government and us private sector to ensure that we orient our farmers in terms of, getting organized. I always say, one of my colleagues, Chabota, always says, farmers are organized during market. During FISIP, but it's organized during markets. Yes, for example, because the time of FISIP, when the cooperatives will make an announcement, so we need money, farmers will contribute. But when it comes to markets, it's Paluakwe Eka farmer, Paluakwe
But that
Eka.
should be ongoing.
You understand?
Yeah.
So we need even these cooperatives to change their mindset and ensure that they are there, to provide productivity, to help increase, income levels, for their farmer, groups, for their memberships, members, and so on. But let them also ensure that they provide market for these farmers, for example. If it is in cowpea marketing, if it is in growing of maize, if it is in all these sectors, the cooperatives are there to help. Instead of waiting, for these funded organizations to provide these market linkages for them, funded organizations are just working in certain areas. They're not everywhere. You understand? So they need to ensure that they look at this and ensure that they provide this, information to our farmers so that we have organized, markets. They need to link the farmers. For these cooperatives to link their membership, their farmers to the market, they need to do research, market research. They need to do an environmental scan, look at their potential, look at what they can produce and what they can sell. You understand? And apart from that, also, there is an aspect of value addition, which is very critical. Value addition may need some machinery, simple machinery, and some of these simple machinery cannot be cannot be attained, or individual farmers may even fail probably, to get them. Most of the farmers may not be able, but we can use groups. We can use these farmer groups. We can use these cooperatives, so that they buy, this simple machinery provided by SARO, if it is to do with oil making, if it's to do with the SAMP, if it's to do with any other value addition. Because in doing this, it will create market and provide employment, even for, the local, economies within the rural areas will be able, to pick it up. So we have a lot that needs to be done for Zambia to become sustained, even in terms of productivity.
I know that tradition is very important, but one aspect that has maybe made us lag behind in terms of increasing levels of agricultural productivity is our small-scale farmers have continued maybe embracing traditional ways of agriculture.
Yes, that is very true. And embracing, traditional way of farming, is not business. It's not business. It's not sustainable. It's not helping us.
Yeah.
So now we need to ensure that we train our farmers, and this is the concepts that is there in the rural areas, because we are born farmers. So we are just in this area, to do farming, because there's nothing else that we can do. We are poor. We were born poor. So farming is a business for poor people. That is the concept. But very few farmers realize to say, farming is a potential business, it's a lucrative business. And when they get involved into it, with the concept of making profits, with the concept of making money, it will enhance, this, mindset, a shift, for our smallholder farmers. I mentioned to say 96%, of, farmers are the ones that contributed to the food basket, to the maize production that we are talking about. Only 4%, from larger, scale farmers. So meaning if these smallholder farmers, and one thing that hurts me, and that makes me, to get involved in this advocacy is because, our smallholder farmers are not growing. Mr. Mbewe, they are not growing. For 20, 30 years, for 50 years, they are still smallholder farmers. But there must be progression. There must be progression. There must be a way smallholder farmer who started, with one lima can go into 2 limas, can go into 1 hectare, can go into 3 hectares, can go into 10 hectares. It is not a selected few farmers who have the potential to grow the sector. There's been so many things that have impeded the growth of this sector. Let me mention some of the things. It's to do with the policies that the government makes. The FISIP, is a well-intended, it was a well-intended program. I understand now we are turning into ASP, Agriculture Support Program.
Yeah.
The government has supported the farmers through FISIP for many years. And, a well-intended, program, when it tends to be political, it will not, produce, expected results. Because why am I saying that it tends to be political? Because it tends to be a maintenance way of, maintaining farmers and attracting farmers to vote for whoever it is. You understand?
That's right.
But, we should not attach farming to politics. We should, ensure that farming is an entity, a standalone entity that we need to promote as politicians, because these politicians are put in the office to ensure that, they bring that economic, transformation. And if for them to bring this economic transformation, they need to bring policies that will advance the farmers, the small farmers, so that they can grow, so that we push the numbers from 4%, of larger farmers who produced maize, for the food strategic reserve. We have more numbers, of larger scale farmers from our smallholder farmers. So when we are looking at these policies that are maintaining our farmers, it is not a good thing. And I suggest to say that even as the government is looking into the ASP program, let them look into this. It shouldn't be the same farmers getting these fertilizers for 10 years. For political expedience. We don't want to make a strategy whereby we win certain farmers, maybe for after 3 years, after 3 seasons. We win them so that others can advance. And how do we win these farmers that we've supported for 3 years? We need to ensure that the private sector, though they are not everywhere, I've worked in the private sector in promoting conservation agriculture for 20 years. We are not everywhere. But the Minister of Agriculture and the Extension Officers are everywhere. You understand? So they need to ensure that this number of farmers progress. They need to grow and become commercially and self-sustained. But where is the problem? The problem is to do with the policies of the government, and the other problem is underfunding of the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Mbewe. We can talk about very well about improving, the productivity. You cannot talk about improving the productivity of the agricultural sector without talking about the extension officer, because you cannot have a farmer without an extension officer. You cannot have a food without a farmer. So this is a chain, you understand? So we cannot talk about the output when we fail to talk about the input. And when we are talking about the input, we are talking about the responsibilities of these great men and women who are working in the rural areas. It pains when you look at the services these men are offering. This time around Zambia, we've not had severe, effects of malnutrition, severe effects of poverty levels, because of these men that are sustaining the strategic reserve. Because they are there, working under very difficult, circumstances. So we are talking of progressing the farmers. How can they progress the farmers? Mr. Mbewe, each extension officer, ratio is supposed to look after 400 farmers. But they are now looking after or managing 1,500 to 2,000 farmers. Per officer. How can they manage?
But last week I saw somewhere where it was announced that government intends to employ more extension officers.
That is an output. In my own view, we are not looking at the challenges that we are facing in the input. We are looking at the output. We are looking at the, certain things that will not sustain the agricultural sector.
Which comes along with the welfare of the officers.
Yes. First of all, when they are looking at employing, that is a very good thing. I made a statement yesterday to over, 10, media houses. Yeah. I made a statement yesterday, and it was on news, in media houses, others who broadcast it today. I said, it's a very good move, to employ. But I'm talking about 1,500 to 2,000 farmers. The best thing the Minister of Agriculture would have done is to restructure the camps. You understand? The camps. These camps have been there for many, many years. You understand? In colonial days, many, many years. We have the census this time around. Every 10 years we have the census. Since when did the Minister of Agriculture do it? I don't know how I can call it. And it's a scan, an environmental scan, where they can restructure these camps. Because there are so many people that have come in. There are so many people that are born. There are so many people that have been, coming into these areas. So, others are retirees. They've come into these areas. So the numbers have increased. You understand? And for your own information, we have very few numbers of extension officers. And some of the extension officers are manning 3 camps, 2 camps. And even the block officers who are supposed to manage the extension officers are manning camps as well. So this is a big challenge that we are facing as Zambia. So before they look at employing, let them look at the welfare. Look at the transport of these extension officers. Because they need to be mobile, you understand? Do they have transport? Do they have transport? It's the Ministry of Agriculture. They want to improve, productivity so that we can export, to other countries. But the Ministry of Agriculture staff, they do not have transport to talk about. Some of these transport projects, motorbikes, that they are using a few, extension officers. Look at the servicing. Do they have the servicing, modalities, to service those motorbikes for them to be durable so that they are able to meet the expectations? Do they have the operational funds and logistics, to enhance, productivity in their areas? Nothing. These are the challenges we are facing. So we should not rush into employing. Let's look at the challenges that has been there before, that our men and women are going through. They are silent soldiers, in Central Province. These are agricultural extension officers are silent soldiers. Look at the accommodation. Do they have accommodation? For me, as a manager, I'll drive, and our staff, they are based in town. They are based in town and they go to operate in the remotest areas. We are comfortable. You understand? We are comfortable. But look at the extension officers. They are based in the remotest areas. They are based in the rural areas without electricity, without running water, and they are there saving the mother Zambia. I feel like they are more of a calling. It's more of a calling that they are saving God through the extension approach. But they don't have accommodation. And when you look at the health, personnel, there are health centers in these rural areas. Health centers, they may have 3 houses there, with solar panels, you understand. Teachers, they may have, houses there. I understand not all of them are accommodated. Yes, that is the truth. But they've at least some sort of, progression. You understand? But an extension officer, they are in these ZEPU, houses that were built in colonial days many years ago, and they are dilapidated. And most of them, they are squatting in the villages. They've become more of villagers this time around. What is the plan if the ministry wants to recruit the staff? This is a good thing. Do they have modalities for transport? Do they have a plan in terms of short-term or long-term measures to look at helping out in terms of the infrastructure for these extension officers so that they are motivated? If they are motivated, they will become innovative and creative. These are technologies that we are talking about. But if they are not, motivated, how are they going to help out our farmers to progress to, larger scale farming? So these are some of the challenges as a country we are facing. We would want to stamp out, prune, and ensure prune, kind of solutions. But we are not looking at deep, rooted, solutions that can help, to bring life into this agricultural sector. So in short, the agricultural sector itself is underfunded. It's underfunded. And the Malabo Declaration is CT 2003. They said it's the same, presidents, the AU African Union then. And they made, resolutions to say, all the African, countries will be contributing 10% of their, budgetary allocation, to the agricultural sector, so that we enhance agricultural sector by 2025. From 2003, what has happened? What has happened? Where is the 10% the African, president he talked about? Coming now, we have the 2063 agenda. We need to increase AU agenda. We need to increase, productivity, nutritional levels. 2063 agenda. 2063, how many years? 42 or something from there. I think by then I'll be 100 years and so on. Is it sustainable? What are the short measures? As Africa, we will not progress. We will not improve this sector if we don't have, short-term measures to deal with the latest, challenges, that we are facing. Immediate, measures. One thing that I look at is that, these presidents of ours, these politicians that we put into office, they need to be accountable. 2063, even the same people who are saying 2063, we need to ensure that Africa is self-sustained in nutritional values, they will not be there. They will not be there. You understand? 40 years from now, they will not be there. The president Akainde is not going to be there. You understand? He's going to be in office for 10 years, 5 years, for example. And maybe it may extend to 5 years, depending on the Zambian, people. You understand? Giving him the mandate. And this has to do with his performance. So we are postponing as Africa. We are postponing as Africa. So even as we make these long-term measures, let's look at specific, short-term measures to deal with these challenges that we are talking about. Let's fund this agricultural sector. Africa, how can we depend, on Ukraine and Russia? This time around, Africa is crippled. And the European Union, the AU, disclosed to say 55 million of the people in Africa are in high, poverty and starvation because of Ukraine. On top of that, we have the challenges of COVID-19. We have the challenges of climatic, shocks. You understand? So how do we improve this sector? Let's fund this sector. I know the government doesn't have resources to look at all these things that have itemized, but these are things that can inject life in the agricultural sector. If the Ministry of Agriculture is well funded, for example, they employ those new staff, and it's a welcome idea. Where are they going to find the transport? Do we need, government workers to be paid our money for the works that they're not doing? And it's not their fault. The extension officers, it's not their fault. This time around, their operations, these extension officers, their operations is farmer-driven. farmer-driven, meaning a farmer would call them if there's anything they would want.
They're just on call for
on call, you understand? But there are certain interventions. For example, how do they, interpret the AU summit to the local farmers? They need to organize meetings for these farmers. It's an ongoing work because this is why they are there in their localities, to increase productivity. So we cannot see the progression of these farmers that we are talking about from smallholder to medium, even to larger scale, because of the problems that we have. Most of these extension officers, in fact, they are learned. They are people that have been to universities. They have certifications. They know what they are doing. But they are demoralized because they don't have, the backing, the support, the logistical support to enhance their activity. So, President Akahinde Hichilema, the Minister of Agriculture, Central Province, Minister, our Minister Honorable Nanjua, and even our Permanent Secretary, the government who are listening to me. Yes, you are new in the government. You are new in the government. But the Zambian people voted for you to ensure that we look at these things. You understand? So let's not trim, solutions that are not dealing with the root causes of the agricultural impediment, the agricultural, stagnation for all these years. Let's look at certain measures that, though painful, but who have a straight, and who have, specific measures that will address, these, situations.
All right. So, in your view, with right policies, with actual action, not just mere talk, and appropriate funding, we can wake up this giant in Zambia and, of course, increase the potential of agriculture in Central Province.
Yes. Let me give something. When I was preparing on this topic today, I found something that was reported on December 4th. 2017. Central Province, it was the Central Province Economic Plan unveiled by the Central Development Coordinating, Committee. And the theme of this, meeting was adopting new approach to deliver economic development in Central Province. And it was reported by Chambo Nguni from Daily Mail. It was, through this meeting, it was agreed to create off-balance sheet financial strategy to create new revenue streams for each district, because they identified, the potential of each district. This is what we are talking about this time around. So 2017, Central Province, it was unveiled, the economical plan, to develop, a Central Province agricultural prowess was done by the development, coordinating, committee. And they identified, mining, tourism, education, manufacturing, agriculture, and many other sectors, that needed, to be supported. But hear me. The minister then, Mr. Mushanga of Central Province, said something that is very valid. We need to be specific and set realistic goals and time frame on how to achieve the development we want. You understand? So many of the times these politicians have been having talk shows, time in and time out again. This is why, for us, experts, we are not in politics. We are not in politics, to ensure that we offer a balanced view. And this is why I'm here. I'm not here based on the political affiliation. I'm here as an expert in the promotion of climate smart agriculture to ensure that we work hand in hand with the government and review certain things. Because, these people that are in governance, sometimes they protect their bellies, their jobs so much, other than protecting the interests of the Zambian people. They will not tell the president the truth. They will not confess things that are really happening and hurting the Zambian people on the ground. When the president will ask a question in the cabinet and the ministers will say, Bwana, everything is well with you. Your policies are working. But when you go down, when you talk about agriculture, what is working? Nothing is working because we have the engine that is supposed to drive this economic advancements in the agricultural sector. The Ministry of Agriculture, which is dead. Dead in the sense that there is no funding that can accelerate, and improve the welfare of our farmers so that they grow, their farming, endeavors. So all these things, we lack, realistic goals and time frame to deal with these, challenges, that we are facing. And we lack, consistency in political, leadership. Last time I mentioned to say we had a pronouncements made by KK Kaunda, where he was saying, we need to go back to the land. Kaunda is no more, may he so rest in peace. No one took it up. The eventual presidents that came through never took it up. We have President, Mwanawasa. He talked about, may he so rest in peace. He talked about, agriculture not only to be a rain-fed kind of activity. Agriculture, should be done throughout the year because it's a business. We saw him being an example at his farm, employing, irrigation, systems and so on. What happened? He died, with his vision. This time around, we have the pronouncements that are being done, by Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, our president, our Republican president, to call the Zambian people to say we need to go back and revamp the agricultural, sector. So we lack, consistency as our political, leadership. We need consistency. We need political leadership will, to address, these challenges, that we are talking about. We have a plan of farm blocks, these farm blocks that were set up in all these, provincial areas. And this is a viable, kind of a system. But there are no policies. There are no policies to guide on how, foreign investments and the local people can tap into, these, innovations. Well intended, but no direction. So these are things that we need, to look at.
Dr. Oliver, you are an agro expert, for sure, we all know that. And as well as a climate smart agricultural activist. And you're out there all over on the ground. You know what is on the ground. You know what is really worth handling. You know what is not forthcoming. And you know what farmers need. What are you telling government?
I'm telling government to say, if we need to improve the agricultural sector, look at the Ministry of Agriculture itself. Because it is a component, it is a sector that will be able to drive. It's not the pronouncements from the president. It's the sector of the Ministry of Agriculture that is able to drive. Look at the welfare of your staff and motivate your staff, and that will increase productivity. Number two, let the government look at lowering production cost. You understand? Lowering, let them give incentives, to the sector, because we are talking about beginning afresh in the agricultural sector. So how do we start afresh? We need to start afresh, by injecting life in the agricultural sector. How do they inject life? I've talked about the stuff, and again for the welfare of all the field staff. I mean the farmers. The agricultural sector, we are talking about the equipment companies. We are talking about, we are talking about the seed companies. We are talking about the chemical companies and so on. Let them, let the government give them incentives, even for 2-3 seasons. Give them incentives, those taxes they pay and so on, so that it lowers the production cost. If it lowers the production cost, it means our farmers will do more. They will increase in terms of productivity. So if our farmers increase in terms of productivity, the government can give now, taxes. The farmers can pay taxes to the government. The government can gain even revenue. There will be higher, production, and there will be also higher, percentages of exports. The government will be able to gain, revenue in terms of that, system. So we need to lower the production cost deliberately to ensure that the government injects life, in the agricultural sector. Let the government help out also in terms of market linkages. I mentioned these market linkages. So if we tell our farmers to produce more, where is the market? Where is the market? If we want our farmers to produce more legumes, more nutritional foods of nutritional values, where is the market? So let there be strategic, markets provided, through the government or the private sector, so that our farmers, even when they are producing, they are very sure to say we are producing because, we have, the market. So I know it's not only about the government, even the private sector. The challenge we have with the private sector, these donor-funded organizations, is lack of sustainability in terms of funding. Funding, levels are dwindling. Most of the organizations, the major component of scaling up conservation agriculture program done by CSU is not done this time around. The funding came to an end in January, you understand? And this is the situation with other organizations. Why can't our leaders, who are manning projects, knowing the challenges that the world is going through, economic shocks that the world is going through, look at modalities of being self-sustained, have measures, models of financial self-sustainability by working, not only leaning on donor funding, but also leaning on the private sector support. We have the private sector support with the responsibility of corporate social responsibility that can pump in money into these organizations so that they promote these technologies that we are talking about, teaching farmers business and farming on a sustainable basis. Let the government build irrigation infrastructure also, this infrastructure, storage facilities also in these rural areas, working alongside the private sector. How can it be done? There must be a framework. There must be set plans by the government. The private sector can work hand in hand with the government to provide, all these,
How do you look at
linkages.
the ongoing debacle, or is it the debate over fertilizer? Fertilizer still has a political, attachment to it.
Yes.
We don't have a level where we have a productivity of fertilizer at a large scale, ongoing and perpetual, as a product that you can just pick up at any time on a shop shelf.
This is the,
It has to be at a certain time of the year. No, fertilizer now has been distributed. It has to be announced by leaders. Why can't it just be a product which you can pick
and at any time you want?
Yeah.
This is the challenge that we are talking about, and those are certain components that the government should look into. It should look into. How do they increase productivity? No fertilizer. Fertilizer is coming from Ukraine. You understand? How are we going to survive? How are we going to survive?
And we've got a white elephant there in
Kabwe, nitrogen, chemicals. Yesterday I was watching on my news, on the news, the government, the president was in Colombia, nickel mining or something like that. Something like that. Minings.
Mine, yeah.
Yes, the minings are opening up. It's good for our countries. We go this side there, mining are opening up. What of the agricultural sector, please? Where are the companies that are opening up to help our farmers in terms of increasing productivity? Where is the fertilizer company? This was mentioned even by AU. So we need to open up these fertilizer companies within our own continent, within our own setups, instead of depending on other countries. These are things the government should spend much more resources. So next time we do not want to hear more of the opening of the mines. We would want also to hear more of the opening of these, fertilizer companies.
If possible, if anything, probably fertilizer companies or fertilizer NCZ factories of that nature, they can be placed in every province.
That is what we are talking about. I talked about market linkages. I talked about processing, companies. These processing companies, can work, can tap into the potentials within the areas where farmers are. So if the processing companies are set up, we have markets for our farmers. It will increase productivity in Zambia and even beyond our country. But now when we look at fertilizer, yes, we know all these areas. We know Eastern Province, what is Eastern Province is good at. We know Southern Province, what is good at. So we need in all these areas strategic, fertilizer, companies that can feed into the potentials that are within those areas. So these are the developments, that we need to look at as a country. The Ministry of Agriculture, I don't know, even other, the government itself should sell, promote these people who go to Woo Investments. The vice president was in India, some weeks back. Is it last week and so on? I believe these are certain things they need to look at. How is India progressing in terms of productivity? India is doing well in terms of farming. I sat down when I visited, I was invited by the Indian High Commission. I explained where they started from. India started, just the way Zambia is struggling, but they are self-sustained in terms of productivity. They are self-sustained in terms of exports, agricultural exports. So this is what we need, as Zambia. So there are certain key indicators that our governance systems, our president and the government should look at, to ensure that we trigger, Zambia, growth, in the agricultural sector.
Right. So moving forward now, we'll just definitely have one word of appeal from Dr. Oliver, but we have a few messages that have come through before we close. This first one says, good morning, Mr. Mbewe. Good morning, Dr. Oliver. Well spoken, Doc. And don't worry that we are not calling. We are just busy, but we are very, very much attentive. We are listening attentively to the program. Kudos to you, Doc, for being the voice of the small scale farmer, Kabila. All right. Yeah. And another one says, Dr. Oliver, how is your general perception over the inclusion of legumes on the FISIP? Okay. And where the intended results achieved by the farmer economically, and have they added value to the country, from Dr. Encyclopedia. All right. I don't know if we're still talking against the background of FISIP here, but his question is connected to FISIP, saying
yes,
the inclusion of legumes on the FISIP, or should we say on the ASP?
ASP, yeah, whatever it is, because these are similar, program. We just change names, but the intentions, excuse me, the intentions, are the same.
Yeah.
So now, when we look at inclusion of in fact, even last farmers program we had, we talked about they'll be giving pigeon peas.
Yes.
Yam, is it yam? I'm not too sure. Those other legumes, sorghum, soya.
Yeah.
So it's a very good move. Dr. Encyclopedia. It's a good move because most of our farmers were used to monocropping. Monocropping, I mean growing of the same crop.
Same crop.
Maize. And we have, degraded, soils, and, it's not helping out in terms of, sustaining, farming, for a longer, period. So now, when the government looks at, in fact, they even wanted to scrap, giving of legumes, you understand? But we talked about it to say, no, scrapping it, better they scrap maize other than legumes, because legumes will help in terms of raising the nutritional levels, as well as improving the fertility levels, of our soils, you understand? So now, in the new program, they would want to broaden up, that aspect, so that farmers will get more other, legumes, depending on the areas or regions where farmers are. It's a good move. But what we are saying is that markets, it's a good move, but let it be linked to markets. Farmers will go pigeon pea, will grow a pigeon pea. Where are they going to sell it? You understand? So these are major things, Encyclopedia, that the government should look at. To solving our problems, pamulu, and we think that we are solving out the problem. To our root causes. So I've talked about the root causes, the many issues that the government need to look at, to trigger, productivity. And also, it is, I think, that is one thing that I can talk about.
We've got a call on the line. Hello? Good morning. We are still in the morning. Who are we talking to? Smile. Okay, you're through to the program. Hello? You're on Spice FM. Go ahead with your question or your comment. Okay, thank you very much for calling. Okay, enjoy listening to Spice FM.
Yes. Thank you so much, for our callers.
Yeah.
So that is that about legumes. Our farmers, let them incorporate them, in their farming, endeavors. And again, maybe are we closing now, or we still have 2 minutes?
We've got a few more minutes.
Okay.
Up to 11:30.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Maybe let me talk about one other, important, thing that I've talked about, before and so on. I may repeat, this, because this program was was intended, the permanent secretary would have been here,
Yes.
so that we hear, views from him. It's about the road networks in the rural areas.
These are the issues we wanted to bring out.
Yes.
The feeder roads.
The feeder roads, you understand?
yeah.
So we want a clear roadmap. I made a media, a precis statement, and one thing that came out, in Impongwe, people that are involved in this CDF, kind of a thing, I was told to say, in my media statement, I said to say, part of the money, let it be used, to improve, open up these, feeder roads. But I was told to say that money, on capital projects, it's just a small amount of money. That because there are other things that they can do with the same money. So meaning the local authority cannot manage, to use CDF, to open up, the feeder roads. They can do maybe minor jobs like making bridges,
Township roads,
and so on and so forth.
Okay.
But let me
We've
say
got another
this.
call on the
Oh.
line. Hello. Yeah, I'm quite much working.
I'm quite much we can
Laima, Shan. Yeah.
Twatelaba Emmanuel, what we sure we know, really watching and it's very important because even as we are promoting climate smart agriculture, our intent, our the other side of our colleagues, they are promoting organic, farming, but that is very good as well because we are promoting, smart, farming technologies. But when we look at this synthetic fertilizer, their effects are good. In terms of production, they increase production. They work very well, for a long time. You understand? So we can't say that because we've come into promoting climate smart agriculture, we do away with these synthetic fertilizers. But their effects, to the ground are also severe.
They're devastating.
Yeah, they're devastating. You understand? This is why now we bring in the component of farmers, liming.
Yeah.
Their soils. This time they use this synthetic fertilizer, let them do their liming. That time when we started, I've been involved from 1995 in the promotion of climate smart agriculture and also this organic thing. They were not there. They were not there. So this time around, the technology is improving. We have companies that are very good organic, fertilizers, doing very well, and so on. And it takes a long time for farmers to change their mindset. And people that can drive this agenda is the same,
Okay, just take note of your point,
Oh, yeah.
and we'll come back after this call. Hello. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, Kapila, we are on What's the Issue program.
Good morning, Professor. Good to hear from you.
Thank you. Yes, I want to help you answering that gentleman who called me. This is Mlenga from Good One.
Okay, Mr. Emmanuel. Organic, yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, organic fertilizer, it is being produced by some companies or not before. And it is
Yes.
Okay, my dear. Yes. So this time around, we have this, availability of this organic, from different, companies that are doing very well. There are specifications in terms of those that do well for vegetables, tomatoes, you understand, and different vegetables. Others are for cereals, and so we did some experiments as conservation farming unity then in terms of some of these, products. You understand? So now most of our farmers are not aware of these products. You understand? And to change the mindset, like I mentioned, it takes long. It's not a one-day thing. And the people that are supposed to propel this are the extension experts. the extension experts, because these organizations, for us, private, partners, private sector, we are not everywhere, but the extension experts can do this. So my thing, and the only thing that I can mention is that I've talked about this, is that, we have so many good organizations that are helping our Zambian farmers. Very good organizations. But certain farmers, they are not aware about what they are doing. You understand? So these organizations that are providing organic is cheaper, and it's better, and in fact it's safer in terms of usage, because even when we are telling our farmers to use these herbicides, for spraying, and all these other chemicals, weed killers and so on, there is a component that we do on safety. We tell them how to use this, so that they don't affect them in a long run. You understand? So they have deadly, effects on health. But when we look at this organic, they are good. They've that, user, friendly. They are good even to the environment. So these are certain things that our farmers can tap into. So what do we do in order to enhance, the promotion of this organic in, comparing to the higher cost of these, synthetic, fertilizers and so on? Organic, companies that are involved in this, sector, sell yourselves. I've always talked about this. Make just even a Facebook page. For those that are able to read, they read and hear. Even when you put on the Facebook page, there is what we call sponsor, your page or whatever you put on that page, so that it can reach out to so many people. You pay Facebook, it can reach out to so many people for certain days and so on. Come on the radio, come at Spice FM and sell your products. Tell the farmers, come on our Friday program. You pay us and be the sponsor of farmers program on Friday, so that we sell your products. Go to community radio stations and sell your products. This is one thing that we are missing it on the advertising, aspect. Farmers will not tap into these things without knowing. The other thing is that as you do the promotion, set up demo sites, so that during field days, the farmers will go and see the performance of your organic, fertilizer. That will instill confidence and trust in those, products. So we can't say that organic fertilizers works, because farmers have been seeing how these synthetic fertilizers works for many years.
They've got a track record.
Track record.
Yeah.
So where is the track record for this organic, kind of materials? You understand? Kind of organic, materials. So we need to go back in the community, sell them. Mr. Mdewe, these are good. They work. They produce good results. So sell them, so that it will help, to sustain, the agricultural sector.
Can they work also for bulk crops like maize crops, commercial large-scale crops?
Yes, one thing that I've noted is that the organic, fertilizers are not like synthetic fertilizers. They are in specifications. What that can do well, for cereals, and their specifications on usage, they are targeted. So a farmer who is in vegetables will use, different, kind of, these organic fertilizers, and they work very well. Maybe coming back to the other point that I raised on the feeder roads and so on. So this is, a very critical. So we cannot talk about, increasing, opening up, farming, activities in the rural areas if we undermine the essence of feeder roads. So the government has a role to ensure that the same way you are working on the township roads, please open up feeder roads in the rural areas. The government, the Zambian people put this government into office to ensure that, they look at these challenges they've been facing. Because the challenges of marketing, the challenges of increased productivity relies, on the road network. Let's not forget the rural farmers. I've always said in this, farmers program, to say we are the product of rural areas. For me, I come from Kabichimpanga. On my range, it's always Kabichimpanga. This is where I come from. All of us, we depict, where we come from. But why are we denying opportunities of improving the rural farmers? We are not saying that build them nice houses. They have their own thatched houses. But what we are looking at is to improve productivity. They can build their own houses, but for them to do this, they need good road networks. So let's ensure we open up these feeder roads, so that we pump life into rural areas, and then, we'll see our people doing more.
All right, in closing now, when we go back to our topic, which says agriculture, Zambia's sleeping giant, and can Central Province, increase the potential, Now, when we look at agriculture itself, it's a pillar in all the aspects of life. Whether you talk about economy, agriculture plays a part. Whether you talk about mining, agriculture plays a part. Whether you talk about politics, government, everybody at the end of the day will need to eat. Everybody thrives on the soil.
Yes, for sure.
Everybody thrives on the environment, which is also held by the plants. So now, in considering the cost of living now, what are the numbers in agriculture? Are they favorable to boost agriculture so that the small-scale farmer can be escalated to that level where they also will be happy? Because when you look at the cost of crops, maize on the floor, the prices are not favorable to the farmer. All these other crops which the farmer has been traditionally dealing with are not getting that amount of money which they think can motivate them or is inspiring for them to continue in agriculture.
Yes, that is a very good, observation. And one thing that you have to we have to realize is that by 2050, the population of the world is increasing. I think will be somewhere. Are we 1.3 billion? If I'm not mistaken, we are getting to 9.5 billion or somewhere there. The population is increasing by 2050, and in Africa, the population is increasing, even much more, about 2.5 billion or 2.3. Forgive me for, if I've made a mistake. So, about the rate of increasing in terms of population is higher, in Africa. So now we have somebody mentioned to me to say, we have the 30,000 teachers that are even employed with government for that, and 11,000 and more of these health workers, meaning the demand for food will be more. The demand for food will be more, because these guys will look after families. They will raise families and so on. So the demand for food will. So in terms of productivity, we are not doing well. We are not doing well. So this is why I talked about all these things that we need to patch up, as the government need to patch up, so that they look at the root causes of all these challenges, so that now is the time to change the perspective of the agricultural, sector, so that even as we are anticipating the growth, of the population, the Zambian people or the global, community will be sustained, because we are able to produce more in relation, to the, population at hand.
Right, we can now come safely to the end of the program. Doc, it's been good talking to you once again. Unfortunately, listeners, we were unable to bring on board the permanent secretary, though he had assured us that he will definitely be on the program. Actually, he was supposed to be with us tomorrow on What's the Issue Thursday, but then he requested that we bring it on today, but he didn't come through. Reasons best known to himself. We apologize on behalf of the permanent secretary for not showing up, but we definitely hope that next time around we shall make sure we pull him by the string to make sure that he sits on the panel and be with us on the program. Doc, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much. And for our farmers, start land preparation and do climate smart agriculture for sustainability. God bless you.
All right, this has been What's the Issue, a special edition for Wednesday. Join us on What's the Issue again next time, and next Thursday on Spice FM. Good day for now, and bye.
What's the Issue? Spice FM presents What's the Issue radio program. Do you have any issues with national development, governance, community development, politics, or the economy? Bring it on and listen to
your
What's
politicians.
the issue?
Yes.